So UFC 279 is coming up this weekend, and I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions. It's Artem MMA Analysis here. Going to be talking about UFC 279. I think it should be a very good card. I think it's actually a big test to see how much of a pay-per-view draw Khamzat Chimaev is. Might even be testing the pay-per-view draw of Nate Diaz because he is on the last fight of his contract. Maybe he re-signs, maybe he doesn't. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. But I'm looking forward to the card. I think it should be a good one. I don't think it's as great as some of the pay-per-views we've seen in the past, but I think it's still a good card. It might not be worth the $75 price, but it's still a good card. You know what I mean? And we're starting off the card with Darian versus Johan, and I think that the UFC might be putting this card on as the first fight of the night, because I think that it's going to be a knockout to kick off the card, because if Johan wins, it's going to be by KO, probably in the first or the second round. And maybe if Darian wins, I think it's going to be more of a decision, or maybe even like a late TKO, sort of, because the pick here is Darian but he has to survive the first rounder against Johan. So Johan, what does he bring to the party? Power, and a lot of it, and he is a big welterweight. I believe this guy walks around at 190 pounds, 192 pounds is what I've heard in the past when he fights in the cage after weighing in at 170, which is absolutely insane, and you can see it. This guy is big, but he does kind of lack the cardio, and I think it might be because of that, because of the size of this man. But yeah, he knocked down Gabe Green. Honestly, I was super hyped at the time. I had Johan as my pick, and I was like, man, he just knocked out Gabe Green. But he didn't. Gabe Green kind of popped back up, avoided getting finished, and then Johan was gassed after that, man. This guy has about one round of cardio, and then he's done. He kind of ruined Justin Burlinson. Justin Burlinson went like 17-1 as an amateur, world amateur champion. Got knocked out by Linney, and now he's just recently been knocked out again. So, unfortunate turn of events for Burlinson's career, but that's not what this fight's about, man. It's about Darian and Johan. I've talked about Johan, just crazy power, not the greatest cardio in the world. Darian, man, what does this guy bring? This guy, he's had a tough run in the UFC, but he's looked good doing it. I mean, stepped in on short notice against Bryan Barberena, arguably won the fight. There definitely is an argument to be had there. Sorry. And then he fought Ian Machado Gary, and he looked quite competitive against Ian Gary. He really did. But to be fair, that was mainly just because he was stalling it out by using his clinch control, which I think is going to be very important in this fight. I think if he's able to grind out Johan maybe against the cage, maybe even get a takedown, make Johan work to get up to his feet, maybe once or twice in the first round, and really sap the gas tank of Johan, I think that he should be able to survive the first round and maybe work towards a TKO towards the end, or maybe win the last two rounds and win a decision. I think Johan's going to win the first. I think he's going to land bombs on Weeks, but whether or not those put him out is whether or not he wins the fight. That's really how I see this one. Linney, he's got one punch KO power. He's one of the scarier guys at 170 in my opinion, due to just the KO power that he does possess. But I'm going to have to side with Darian here. I think he is going to clinch up Linney in the first round. I think he's going to maybe look for a couple of takedowns and just win a decision. Tapology's on Linney. I'm on Weeks. He's a slight favourite. I don't really like the fact that he is the favourite. I thought he would be the underdog. I mean, he's 0-2 in the UFC right now. But, yeah, I think this is a winnable fight for Weeks. I think he's proved himself to be pretty good. He was meant to fight on Dana White's Contender Series. And I think he pulled out, or his opponent pulled out or something, and then he stepped in on short notice for Barberena, which is why he's in the UFC. At such like an inexperienced record, I guess you could describe it. But yeah, picking Weeks, I think he should get the job done by decision or late TKO in this one here. And now you've got Elise versus Melissa Martinez, and for a women's fight so low down on the card, this should actually be a pretty good fight. I think that is going to be very competitive as well. Elise striking background, Melissa Martinez, striking background, but I think the difference in the fighters is Elise has a good grappling background herself. She really does. And the thing is, like, I don't want to pick Elise in a fight ever. I mean, I've never picked her to win in the UFC, and it's been looking pretty good for me so far. I'm 2-1 on Elise picks, so I'm gonna pick Melissa Martinez, but it's a tough one, man. Elise she does have like a second or third degree black belt in Taekwondo. She does own the gym that she trains out of, so she's quite successful in that regard, and I do respect her for that. But Melissa Martinez, kickboxing background herself, she has fought kickboxing a few times. I believe that she has gone as far as going to the World Championships in kickboxing before. And you do see it in her fight. She is a very good fighter, and she does have quite a few finishes on her record. Her last win, though, wasn't really a win. She lost to this girl called Desiree Yanez about 3 years ago, and she hasn't fought since. She's definitely been spending that time training. I believe she recently graduated with a degree in something. I completely forgot by the time of recording what it is, but she obviously focused on studying and just sort of other things. And now she's back. She's in the UFC. Step up in competition, I guess you would argue, because Elise Reed is a good fighter. I have seen her fight a few times even before she fought in the UFC. When she fought Hillary Rose and defeated her, I actually thought we were going to see her in the UFC one day, and then, what do you know, she fights 1 month later and fights Sijara Eubanks on short notice. But I think that Melissa Martinez should win this fight. Elise Reed really, really easily could win it too, though. Like, Elise Reed does have good grappling. She has not been able to showcase it much in the UFC whatsoever. But on the regional scene, she has definitely looked to use her jiu-jitsu, looked to use her grappling. Melissa Martinez, I would say, is really just a pure striker. A very good kickboxer. So is Elise Reed, to be fair. But I would say that Martinez should be able to beat Elise Reed on the feet. I mean, if Elise Reed get the fight to the ground, she definitely could have success. Which is why I'm not confident in this fight whatsoever. I don't know if I said that yet. If you want to bet this fight, I just don't do it, guys. It's not worth it. So many people picking Martinez, probably because she's 7-0 and undefeated, and a lot of people will be fading Reed after her last performance. I understand. I'm fading Reed as well, but you can't be confident in this fight, man. You just can't. So I'm picking Melissa Martinez. No confidence at all. I definitely see a world where Elise Reed, with her striking background, does just take down Melissa Martinez and win the fight on the mat, and then everyone gets super surprised. But I think that Melissa Martinez should win the fight. I mean, I hope she does, for my sake. It makes me not look like a complete idiot, but sometimes that happens. And now you've got Chad and Haliga taking on Hailey Alating. I'm picking Hailey Alating in this one here, but I'm not super confident in it, because Chad and Haliga, he is a great fighter. He really is. And he does have crazy power in his hands, and I do respect the run that he's been on. At one point of his career, he was 2-5. That is 2 wins, 5 losses, and now he's gone on a 10-fight win streak and really turned his career around, and good for him, and he's made it into the UFC. But I do refuse to believe that he defeated Muin Gafarov. I mean, he took down Chad Anhaliger 5 times and just looked pretty good in the fight, and I don't understand how Chad won, but it is what it is. And then he fought Jesse Strader, was getting out-volumed on the feet, was arguably losing to Jesse Strader before absolutely demolishing him in the 3rd round. So he's got that dog in him, man. Like, he can definitely turn it around if he needs to, but losing to Jesse Strader on the feet is not a good sign at all. And you've got Hailey Alating here, who is a pretty good striker. I mean, did just knock out Kevin Kroom in the 1st round, which I guess is a pretty good win to have on your record. But there was Kevin Kroom moving down to 135, although he debuted at 155. And the UFC, he's got that draw to Gustavo Lopez, where I believe it was a bunch of low blows, which resulted into him losing a point. Got destroyed, absolutely destroyed by Casey Kenny. Defeated Ryan Benoit and Danar Bakare in his debut. But Hailey Alating at one point, I believe he was like the 3rd ranked wrestler in China. 3rd ranked freestyle wrestler in China at one point before he did transition into MMA, which is cool. So he does have a wrestling background. You do kind of see it. I mean, in his first 2 UFC fights, he was looking for takedowns and he was getting them. But in his last 3 fights, from memory, I don't think this guy's got any takedowns at all. So it'll be very interesting to see if he looks to do that wrestling. And if he does, Chad Anhaliger, I don't know what his bout is in BJJ right now, but I do know going into the Dana White's Contender Series fight, he did have a brown belt in BJJ, so Anhaliger does have a little bit of grappling himself if he does need to use it. The pick is Hailey Alating, and the only real reason is I just think he's a little bit better. I mean, Chad Anhaliger, all he's really got is a lot of power in the hands and a crazy amount of heart and a crazy amount of cardio as well. But I was also going to say durability too. This guy, you can never count out Chad Anhaliger. It can be the last minute of a 15-minute fight, and he could definitely come back and win. Like, as I said, he was getting out-volumed. He was getting beaten, in my opinion, by Jesse Strader. And the pick was in that fight, Chad Anhaliger, and he come back and he just dominated Strader in the 3rd round. So, yeah, you never know what's going to happen with Anhaliger. He's a great fighter, but I'm going to have to go with Hailey Alating to win this one here. I'm not leaning a KO. I don't think that many people right now will be able to finish Anhaliger at this point right now, but I think that Hailey Alating should be able to win a decision. Mix up the striking with the grappling, uses wrestling, and win the fight that way. I do believe that Hailey Alating should win this fight. And now you've got a weird fight, Norma Devinte versus Danielle Wolf, who does seem to be kind of the talk of the town right now. A lot of people wondering, why is Danielle Wolf in the UFC at 1-0, this and that. But I will tell you that Danielle Wolf does have a very impressive boxing record in the past, but she never went professional. As a pro, she was only amateur. I know Tapology says she has a pro boxing record of 27-14. But that's not really, I don't think that's super accurate, because she never went professional. She only ever fought amateur because she wanted to fight in the Olympics. But she fought at welterweight, a woman's welterweight in boxing, and I believe that is 152 pounds. And they didn't have a woman's welterweight division in boxing until 2016 Olympic Games, and by then Danielle Wolf probably was about like 34 years old or so, and she didn't qualify, so I believe it was then she decided to transition into MMA because she was struggling to find fights. I believe that's how she's ended up in MMA. It's kind of a crazy story. Danielle Wolf never went professional. She never got a knockout in her amateur career in boxing at all, which is another crazy thing as well, because she claims to have an amateur record of like 63 wins and 9 losses. I saw her say that in an interview. Tapology has her a 27-14. I believe Boxeric even has her with a different record as well. But according to Danielle Wolf, she's got a much better record than that in amateur boxing. But with that being said, Danielle Wolf definitely is a very good boxer. She does have like a national Golden Gloves championship, I believe it is, not just a state championship, like an actual national championship. And I believe she won that quite a few years in a row. And now she's coming into MMA. She's obviously got good boxing. She's obviously got a good striking. But she fought on Dana White's Contender Series. Not last year. Not this year. In 2020. This was about 2 years ago. She last fought on Dana White's Contender Series against Tanisha Tennant. And there's like an argument she didn't win the fight. I mean, I watched the fight, obviously. It's the only MMA fight you've got of Danielle Wolf, and like, did she actually win the fight? I think there's a big question mark about that one there. And you got Norma Dumont. Norma Dumont is like, I feel like she fights with low IQ. I mean, like, she's got good grappling. She's got 2 submission wins in her career, albeit much earlier on, but she does have a grappling background and a grappling base. And she does have the reach disadvantage. She is the smaller woman in the fight as well. Because Danielle Wolf is big. Danielle Wolf is a very strong physical lady. And Norma Dumont, I mean, I feel like she's just got the more technical grappling. She's the MMA fighter out of the two, I guess you would say. I mean, no disrespect to Danielle Wolf, but she's only been training MMA for what, like 3-4 years now? I don't think that she would have been able to pick up the grappling that Norma Dumont has over the course of her entire life. But the thing with Norma Dumont is, this girl just can't, I don't know, like, if there's a clear game plan for her to win the fight, she won't stick to it. Like, this is a girl that lost to Macy Chiasson, where she easily could have won if she just did 1 or 2 things different. We'll talk about that later. Macy Chiasson is fighting later, and like, I don't know, she just let Macy Chiasson like lean on her in the 3rd round, and Macy Chiasson was gassed out, and she really could have turned that fight around for her. But I think she's like number 15 ranked at 135, but she's been fighting at 145 recently as well. Just clear grappling advantage for Dumont here. I mean, the odds are quite wide, because I was thinking of actually, like, I hate betting women's MMA, but I was kind of thinking like parlaying Dumont with someone, but it's because I am fading Wolf. But I've seen comments, I've seen people picking Wolf, I've seen a lot of people really liking Danielle Wolf in this matchup. I just don't. I mean, she's 1-0. In my opinion, didn't win her Dana White's Contender Series fight anyway. And Norma Dumont, although she isn't the top level fighter, but she did beat Aspen Ladd, I believe, over 5 rounds, which is a great win. Felisa Spencer's a great win as well. Ashley Evans Smith, that's okay, you know, and then she did obviously get knocked out by Megan Anderson, but I guess that happens. Megan Anderson is massive, and yeah, I don't know. I've seen people say Danielle Wolf KO, Danielle Wolf this. Danielle Wolf never got a KO in her boxing record. I know that's amateur and KOs don't really happen at all, but I would like to at least see one, you know. She's only ever seen the scorecard, so going with Dumont, I mean, imagine if she just takes down Danielle Wolf and subs her instantly. And that's what the game plan should be, but I guarantee you it's not. I mean, her fight IQ is so questionable, it actually scares me. But I've got to pick Dumont with a very high amount of confidence. Maybe we'll parlay her, but I'm going to be sweating in that fight if I do that. But yeah, let's just move on, eh? And now you've got Jake Collier versus Chris Barnett, and I'm very confident in Jake Collier, but at these odds at heavyweight, I just don't know how I feel, man. Like, you're Jake Collier, what, minus 350 on Tapology, but I think he's even wider than that on most of the sports books right now, which does make a lot of sense. Chris Barnett, his 2 losses in the UFC have been to much bigger opponents than him. I believe Ben Rothwell stands at, what, 6'3" himself, but he did take that fight on short notice. He knocked out Jan Vellante, who was like a light heavyweight for the most of his career from memory, and then he moved up to heavyweight. Knocked him out with a wheel kick, that was awesome. Knockout of the year contender for sure. Lost to Martin Boudet, and a very questionable ending. Like, he was like claiming back of the head shots, but I feel like they weren't to like the back of the head. Like, I feel like they're just behind his ear, and he just kind of wanted a way out. Maybe he wanted a DQ win, but losing to Martin Boudet like that still to this isn't a great look, because Martin Boudet looked terrible in his last fight. So it'll be very interesting to see how Martin Boudet's career goes going forward, but that's not the point. Jake Collier, some people call him as one of the biggest robberies of the year. Biggest robbery this, biggest robbery that. I mean, he lost to Andrei Arlovski, but did he though? I reckon he beat Andrei Arlovski. I think everyone thinks that he beat Andrei Arlovski. Yeah, he defeated Chase Sherman quite easily, which has turned out to not look terrible, because Chase Sherman did recently win a fight over Josh Parisian, I believe it was. No, not Josh Parisian, it was Jared Bandera. Lost a split decision to Carlos Felipe, who ended up popping for roids, so I guess that's not too bad, and even then I do think that he actually won that fight. I think that Carlos Felipe lost a lot of fights that he was given a split decision win, to be honest. But yeah, like, this guy, Jake Collier, he's good. He's a lot better than his record does say. He's moved up from 185, moved up to 205, and now he's a big heavyweight, man. This guy put on a lot of weight, and he's making things happen at heavyweight. He doesn't even look 34 either. Like, he just kind of, he looks a lot younger than he is anyway, but that's not the point. Chris Barnett's 5'9" at heavyweight. I just don't think he's got it to beat Collier. I'm pretty confident in Collier winning. Probably will side a decision here, Barnett. Barnett's just like, he's cool. Like, he fights with spinning kicks, this and that, but I just think I just can see him gassing out on this matchup. If it takes place at striking range, Barnett can throw this and that all he wants, but he doesn't have like 3 rounds of cardio at his pace that he throws it in the first round. So I think Collier's going to take over towards the end of the fight, should win this one, and hopefully ends up going on a little bit of a run himself, because he is a lot better than that record does suggest. And now we've got Jamie Picket fighting Dennis Tiulian, and I'm one of the few picking Dennis Tiulian, and I've been on Dennis Tiulian actually ever since the fight was made, because I think this fight is it rescheduled from an earlier date? It is rescheduled from an earlier date, and even then, I did have Dennis Tiulian to win this fight here. Jamie Picket, all this guy does, really, for the most part, is try and clinch you up against the fence and then use his wrestling. He might get a takedown every now and then, but for the most part, he's really just looking to get control time, using the fence, using his wrestling, and that's the game plan. It's not that exciting. I guess it's a good test for up-and-coming guys. Like, he did defeat Joseph Holmes and made Joseph Holmes look not as great as I thought he was anyway. And he did defeat Laureano Staropoli, who was on like a 4-fight losing streak then anyway. But yeah, Dennis Tiulian, absolute savage, man. I respect this guy a lot for what he did. He took on Aliaskhab Khizriev on like 1 or 2 weeks notice, and a lot of people did not want to fight Aliaskhab Khizriev. He had like multiple opponents pull out before his debut, and Dennis Tiulian just was like, yeah, no, I'll fight him on short notice, and he looked good. He was like a plus 650 underdog. Khizriev was minus 1,000, and Tiulian brought it to him, man, in the striking especially. He looked quite good, and he was having success. And even then, his defensive grappling, he showed very good defensive grappling, which I think is what's going to matter a lot in this fight, because that's what Jamie Pickett's going to look to do. He's going to look to use his wrestling, and he's going to look to use his like just clinch control, really. And I think that Dennis Tiulian's defensive grappling is good enough to defend that and keep the fight at feet, where I think Dennis Tiulian is the better fighter. And looking more into Dennis Tiulian's fights, this guy, when he knocks people out, he knocks people out. He doesn't just like finish them with a bit of ground and pound, and the ref steps in, and then the opponent's kind of like, oh yeah, I was done, or throws their hands up, oh no. Like, he's knocking people out cold, man. And I kind of want Dennis Tiulian to win, because I would love to see like a crazy knockout on this card, because so far I am predicting quite a few decisions so far. Come on, Dennis Tiulian, let's bring it, brother. As an underdog as well. I mean, I'm hyped for this guy. He's only 34. He's 34 years old, sorry. So he is getting up there in age. He is too old to be a prospect. But he's not old enough to he's not too old. I mean, to be getting crazy KOs. Let's make it happen, Dennis. Let's do it. 28% picking Julian. Most people picking Picket. Pickett's got a clear as day path to victory, but whether or not he's actually going to be able to utilize that against Julian is a question. And I think that Julian, man, he's just a better striker. If it's at striking range, he's powerful. I do think he's the better striker. He does have some good wins on his record. He's got some questionable wins on his record, but all of his losses are to great guys. Like, he recently lost to Ikram Aliskerov, who's going to be on Dana White's Contender Series later this year. Ikram Aliskerov, also prior to the UFC, was Khamzat Chimaev's biggest test. Like, Julian's not fighting cans to pad that record. I know it's not pretty. It's 10-6, but it's like 10-6 against great competition. I mean, he debuted on short notice against 13-0 Aliaskhab Khizriev, who could go on to do something if he was a more active fighter. But yeah, I'm gonna be going with Julian, man. I think he's just a savage in general, man. I respect that out of him. I respect the attitude of fighting someone like Aliaskhab Khizriev on short notice and making an account for himself as well. And in this next one, you've got Uber prospect taking on Jailton Almeida against another pretty good prospect in Anton Turkalj. Anton Turkalj, for some reason, like, took this fight and then got hate for it. I don't understand why. I made a whole video about it when it was happening, because if you look at the Instagram comments of UFC news alerts, of Big Marcel, of all those guys that posted the fight being made, everyone just started hating on Anton Turkalj. I don't understand, like, that attitude whatsoever, because Anton Turkalj has mega kahunas for taking this fight, man. Like, he's got to have a wheelbarrow to carry those balls around, man. I wouldn't fight Jailton Almeida on short notice, but yeah, I think it's a great fight, I really do. Jailton Almeida was meant to fight heavyweight against Jamil Abdurakhimov, and this fight isn't at light heavyweight or heavyweight, it's at 220, and I think that was definitely probably from Turkalj's camp, just making sure that Almeida didn't weigh in at like 240 pounds and Turkalj weighs in at what, like 225. He might walk around at this or that. And I think that's a pretty smart idea. I don't know how committed Jailton Almeida really was to the heavyweight move, though. He really could have just weighed in at 225, but I think that Turkalj's camp kind of just made sure they're like, we can't have this guy balloon up to 240 pounds to fight Turkalj, because Turkalj is going to weigh in at probably what he normally walks around at, like 225 or whatever. But with that being said, I think Almeida wins. I think he probably wins by submission in the first round. I don't want that to happen. I mean, I don't really mind who wins in this one because they're both great prospects, but I want Anton Turkalj to look great. I do, because he's getting so much hate. He's getting so much backlash off his last performance, which makes no sense, because he's got one of the fastest KOs in Brave CF history with a spinning back fist. He's got a submission over Obo Island, who was 8-0 at the time, and prior to that he was fighting guys, but he's 8-0 as his career. He's got a really good, bright career ahead of him, 26 years old, from Sweden as well. I believe he's got some sort of ties to Alexander Gustafsson as well. But Almeida's a different animal, man. This guy's just built different. He really is. Like, he took on at heavyweight Parker Porter, submitted him in the first round, defeated Danilo Marquez with the ground and pound. I believe that was a first round finish. And beat Nasruddinov as well by submission. I believe that was also a first round finish. Might have been second or third. But I picked Jailton Almeida to defeat Nasruddinov. I think he was a slight underdog. I picked him to defeat Danilo Marquez. I picked him to defeat Parker Porter. I'm picking him to defeat Anton Turkalj. And I might just keep picking Jailton Almeida until he loses, to be honest. But I think that Almeida probably should be able to get a submission. Hopefully Turkalj makes an account for himself. This guy does have a very exciting style. It wasn't on display again at the Dana White's Contender Series fight whatsoever, but he is a good fighter, man. He is, I think, underappreciated in a way, but Jailton Almeida is just that guy, man. He really is. So I'll be picking him to win this fight here. And in the next one, you got Hakeem Dawodu taking on Julian Rosa. Julian Rosa on his third UFC run right now, and he's making a good account for himself. He's 4-1 in his last 5. I believe he's 4-1 in his third run as well. But Hakeem Dawodu is pretty good. I believe at one point Hakeem was ranked, but he recently lost to Movsar Evloev and has dropped out of the rankings. Maybe I'm just completely wrong, but I do think that I remember seeing Dawodu with a number next to his name. Maybe I'm just a complete idiot. It does happen sometimes. I am not the brightest spark in the shed 99% of the time, but I am picking Hakeem Dawodu to win this one here. I think that he does make it look relatively easy. Like, when Julian Rosa's striking, his hands, they're like Artem Lobov. I mean, Artem Lobov had his hands like by his hips, but because Artem Lobov's the GOAT, he can get away with it, you know what I mean? But when Julian Rosa has his hands behind by his hips, he's not Artem Lobov. He can get away with it, but he's just not Artem Lobov, you know what I mean? So and Artem Lobov knocked him out too, by the way, like he knocked out every other of the opponent. But I think that Hakeem Dawodu beats Julian Rosa. I think it's more of a decision. I am seeing a lot of people picking Dawodu by KO. I mean, a few people on YouTube are 24% of those picking Dawodu on Tapology are, but I think that Dawodu wins the decision here. I think he just lands a lot more on Julian Rosa, keeps him honest. I don't think he lands anything to knock him out, but I do think he lands big shots that kind of prevents Julian Rosa from doing anything too crazy. You know, Julian Rosa's pretty big. He's 6'1" compared to Dawodu, who was 5'8". And for the most part, Dawodu doesn't have the greatest KO power in the world for someone that is primarily a striker. He recently did defeat Mike Trezano by decision, which is a great win. Lost to Movza Evloev, but did show pretty good defensive grappling in that one. Beat Zubair Takugov, beat Julio Arce, and did knock out Yoshinori Hori, who I don't think did have the greatest UFC run himself. But Julian Rosa coming off 2 wins. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. I think it was like a fight of the night contender against Steven Peterson, split decision, where Steven Peterson missed weight because Steven Peterson just cannot make weight for 145 at all. Beat Charles Jourdain, which has aged pretty well, I guess. Also Sungwoo Choi, which happened. Sungwoo Choi is a big guy for 145. Knocked out Nate... Yeah, okay, this is such a weird career. Hold on. So he knocked out Nate Landwehr. He submitted Sean Woodson. Lost to Sungwoo Choi, and then defeated Charles Jourdain, and then went to a split decision with Steven Peterson. That's a step down in competition from that there. And then just went to split. Okay, anyway. I think that I do remember watching that fight, obviously, and Julian Rosa won it quite clearly in my eyes. But, yeah, I think I'm rambling now. I think it's time to move on. I'm going Dawodu. I think he wins the decision. Just lands the more shots, more volume. Julian Rosa, as I said, Artem Lobov, hands by the hips, but he's not Artem Lobov. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Dawodu. And now you've got Johnny Walker taking on Ion Cutela. It is the no chin Johnny Walker taking on the no fight IQ Ion Cutela. It's a tough one, man. Ion Cutela, is he going to jump up in rankings off a loss? Because I think that he is, but yeah, I'm going to go with Ion Cutela, but I think there's definitely a fair argument to be made for Johnny Walker, and I have seen a few people picking Johnny Walker, but I just can't do it. I can't trust the chin. Every time he gets hit, he kind of seems to, not really wobble, but he seems to react, and I think it's kind of getting to the point where he knows he can't take a shot, so he's eating shots, and he's kind of, like, just not liking it, or just not wanting it to happen. I mean, no one wants to get hit, but you know what I mean? It's just overreacting a lot more than he did in the past, that's for sure. Like, he got knocked out by Corey Anderson pretty badly, did lose to Nikita Krylov by decision, and then he lost to Thiago Santos, and his chin looks pretty good, and then he's got knocked out by Jamal Hill. It's a tough one. Ion Cutela, this guy's fight IQ is in the negatives for sure. I mean, he did lose, not really, to Magomed Ankalaev. I mean, that was a weird referee stoppage. Maybe it could have been different, but then he come back, fought Magomed Ankalaev in the rematch, got knocked out again, pretty much. And then went to a split decision draw with Justin Jacoby, where he dominated the first, and Jacoby come back. And then, beat Devin Clark, and then just got a jump up in competition against Ryan Spann. But I thought that he was going to beat Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann is not someone I rate too highly. I know Johnny Walker did beat Ryan Spann. I think it's actually his most recent win. It is, and yeah, that's kind of it, really. That's the breakdown. Sorry. Ion Cutela, he's a good wrestler. He goes crazy in the first round as well, which is why I like him here. Ion Cutela in the first round is a very different Ion Cutela in the second round, and a very different Ion Cutela in the third round. So, if Ion Cutela does go crazy in the first round like he does, he should be able to finish Johnny Walker, probably maybe a ground and pound TKO if he ends up on top of him with his wrestling, because that kind of is his base, is a wrestling base, but he does just have crazy heavy hands. And he does have pretty good striking. It's not as technical as Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's definitely got more technical striking than Ion Cutela, and I think that he's actually predicting that Ion Cutela is going to shoot on him, because you see him training with Khamzat Chimaev, and I think that he's going to be training with Khamzat Chimaev to drill takedown defense. I think that he wants to keep the fight on the feet, and because that's where he's got his advantage. He's 6'6" with an 82-inch reach, and he does just have more technical kickboxing than Cutela. But if Cutela closes the distance and lands something big, Johnny Walker's going down, and it's not going to look too pretty. I think Johnny Walker does get KO'd in this matchup, and I think Ion Cutela wins. But if it goes to the second round, man, it could be something different. Maybe even Johnny Walker just starts hard and starts fast, and Ion Cutela's never able to find the range. Ion Cutela's never even able to close the distance and land his power shots. Maybe Johnny Walker just picks him apart from range, KOs him eventually, this and that. But I've got to go with Ion Cutelaba. I very, very heavily dislike picking people that have no fight IQ, because it's the most frustrating thing to watch, is watching people with a clear path to victory and they just don't take it. But then again, it's so hard to trust Johnny Walker to be able to take a punch from Ion Cutelaba, who is not the most technical striker in the world. He just really isn't, but he does have power in the hands, especially in the first round. He goes crazy in the first round. I think if you're liking an underdog, though, I think Johnny Walker's a good underdog. I really do, but I just can't trust him. I've got to go with Cutelaba on this one here. Minus 185 favourite, that's pretty wide. I'm not throwing 185 to win 100 on Cutelaba, that's for sure. Wow, I didn't realise the odds were that wide. But yeah, let's just move on to the next fight. And now you've got Irene Aldana taking on Macy Chiasson, and Macy Chiasson has somehow snuck onto the main card of the pay-per-view. I don't know how she does it, but she's done it. And the first thing I'm going to bring up that I think a lot of people might miss in this one here is that this fight is at bantamweight. This fight is at 135. And Macy Chiasson has trouble cutting weight to 145. So I think the weight cut for Macy Chiasson is going to be something crazy. She does fight at she is 5'11", so she is a very big girl, and she does struggle to make 145. She took on Raquel Pennington and she missed weight at 145, weighing in at 184.5, and she did not look good on the scales whatsoever. And then she fought Norma Dumont at 145 and just gassed out so badly in the third round. We're to the point that I'm thinking Macy Chiasson cuts all the way down to 135. Her gas tank's going to be even worse, because we talk about a lot of fighters. We talk about, I would say, probably more male fighters in general. We talk about them, when they go down a weight class, we talk about how their conditioning's going to be worse and it's not going to have the gas tank they used to. We're going to also talk about how they won't have the chin that they used to as well. And I think that might be an important factor here, because Irene Aldana is a very powerful striker. I mean, she did just knock out Yana Kunitskaya in the first round. She just knocked out Ketlin Vieira in the first round, almost 3 years ago. But she still did it anyway, you know. And then she has won a couple of decisions before that. You could argue she did lose to Holly Holm over 3 rounds where she was just kind of chasing Holly Holm. And Holly Holm was taking her to school, really, just showing her that she's the much, much better striker, technically. But Irene Aldana in this matchup, I think she can land, and I think that Irene Aldana might get a KO. And it really just comes to something that no one's talking about. I think no one is mentioning the weight cut for Macy Chiasson on this matchup here. The fight's at 135. It's still listed at 135 on Tapology, so it's not 145. And I'm not tripping out. Macy Chiasson can barely make 145, and now she's got to make 135 for this matchup. I think it's a weird one. I think it's a tough one. I do like Macy Chiasson. I think she's pretty cool on The Ultimate Fighter. She did sign to the UFC when she was like 2-0 as well, so she has made a pretty good run, going 6-2 in the UFC. But I just think that's such an important factor that everyone's ignoring. Just the fact that Macy Chiasson can barely make 145 as it is, and now she's got to make 135. I don't like it. I like Irene Aldana. She's the powerful striker out of the two. Macy Chiasson will be stronger if she has a good weight cut, and she will have probably a very good clinch game, but I think that Irene Aldana should be able to keep her off her, and I think she should be able to keep the fight at range and get a KO. 19% of those picking Aldana, picking her by KO. I think she gets it done. Even if the fight does work out later into the fight, second and third round, Chiasson's gas tank can't be great after trying to weigh in at 135. I think she's going to weigh in. I think she's going to make 135. But I don't think she's going to look great doing it. She did not look great doing it when she fought Raquel Pennington 7 months ago. She didn't look amazing doing it either when she weighed in against Norma Dumont. The weight cut's an issue here, and a lot of people aren't talking about it, and they're not mentioning it. I think maybe I'm looking into it too much. But Macy Chiasson, as I'm saying, she missed weight for 145 7 months ago. I think it's a bigger problem than a lot of people are acknowledging. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm an idiot. I am a bit of an idiot sometimes. But Aldana's the pick anyway. I think that the weight cut's going to be too much for Chiasson. I think Aldana's going to land something, and it's going to be a big one. I think she's going to get a KO. And now you've got Kevin Holland versus Daniel Rodriguez taking place at 180 pounds, and I think that is quite an important factor in this matchup here. Kevin Holland spent a lot of his career at 185. I know that he did fight at 170 earlier on in his career, and then he dropped down to 170, and he's on a 2-fight losing streak since, kind of turning his career around in a way from there. But I guess he wasn't, because he was losing to the top of the top at the middleweight, and then he had that weird fight against Kyle Dalkaus, which hasn't aged well. But it is what it is. Yeah, Daniel Rodriguez, 16-2, his 2 losses, pretty controversial decisions, but we do push forward, we move on. Defeated Preston, no, I keep getting that mixed up. I keep thinking that he fought Preston Parsons after he fought Kevin Lee, but he didn't. His last fight was 1 year ago against Kevin Lee. I keep getting mixed up with the Preston Parsons fight where he took on Preston Parsons. Parsons took it on short notice, got knocked out in the first round. Happens. It just happens. And then Kevin Lee, he beat Kevin Lee. I picked him to beat Kevin Lee as well. A lot of people were picking Lee in that one. I picked Rodriguez, and he made me look somewhat smart. But Kevin Holland here, I think he's got a crazy reach advantage here. He's got a big size advantage at 180 pounds as well. I think that he's the fighter that it benefits the most, because Daniel Rodriguez, I believe, has spent his whole career at 170, or at least his whole UFC career at 170 anyway. And Holland is probably the more natural, like, middleweight of the two. I know Daniel Rodriguez is a big guy, and he does fit a lot into his 6'1" frame, especially at 170 pounds. But Kevin Holland, much taller guy. I mean, only by 2 inches, but he's much longer guy. He's got 81 inches of reach compared to Daniel Rodriguez, who has 74 inches of reach. And we've seen Rodriguez struggle with long, rangy strikers in the past, and I think that's quite important when it comes down to this matchup here. I think that Holland is going to be able to tap away at Rodriguez from range, and I think he's going to win a decision. And this one here, striking-wise decision. I know Kevin Holland is pretty crazy, and he does have good KO power, especially at 185. That Joaquin Buckley knockout is pretty awesome. But, I don't know. I just think that Holland wins a decision. I'm seeing people pick first-round KO. I think that the MMA Guru picked Holland first-round KO, but I think that we're going to see Holland pick apart Rodriguez from range and just kind of beat him up from range, as I said, using his range. I said range like 5 times in that sentence. Yeah, Holland decision is my pick anyway. I know he did win by submission over Oliveira, and he won a submission by Tim Means as well, but I think Holland keeps the fight at distance. So I think he wins a decision that way. And okay, so you're going to notice, if you're watching the whole video, from the whole full card video, you're going to notice my energy is going to deplete a lot, because we're talking about Tony Ferguson, we're talking about Nate Diaz. I'm going to spoil them both right now. I don't think either of them win, and it's sad. It's sad. It's just so sad. I'm talking about this right now. I know it sounds super disrespectful to Tony Ferguson's legacy, and I do not intend that to be at all. I love Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is one of my favourite fighters. In fact, he's probably in my top 3 favourite fighters right now. I've got Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Tony Ferguson, and 2 of them right now are on the decline. It's so tough, man. It's so tough. It's so tough. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm going with Jingliang in this matchup here. The cards are not in Tony Ferguson's favour. If this was maybe 3 months' notice for Tony Ferguson, it could be a different story. But Tony Ferguson, you got to look at it like this. He got knocked out 3 months ago by Michael Chandler. He took this fight on 3 weeks' notice, upper weight class, against the more natural welterweight. Not even just the more natural welterweight, a big welterweight, and Jingliang. I'm seeing a lot of people saying Jingliang's not that big of a welterweight. Tony Ferguson has fought welterweight in the past, but yes, that's true. That's true. But if you look at Jingliang, this guy he just is a big physical welterweight. He just is. And Tony Ferguson, man, he's not fighting at 170 right now. He fought at 170 about 10 years ago, and now he's in his 155 pound frame. I highly doubt he has put on, what would it be, probably another 20 pounds of muscle to be super competitive in size at welterweight at 170. And don't even get me started, he's 38 years old, he's on a 4-fight losing streak, he'd been KO'd in 2 of them, TKO'd against Justin Gaethje, where he took a lot of damage, lost to Olives, lost to Darian, and then he got knocked out by Chandler in a fight that he was winning. Oh, it's so hard to be a Ferguson fan. Who's Tony Ferguson's manager? Because I want to sit them down right now and have a conversation with them. Because if Tony Ferguson fought Dan Hooker, I would pick Tony Ferguson to win that matchup. That's a winnable fight for Ferguson. Why did that not happen? Even I'm sure Dan Hooker would have been happy to fight Tony Ferguson at 170. You know what I mean? Or why didn't Tony Ferguson fight someone like Michael Johnson? I know they've fought in the past, but why not do that? Why not do Tony Ferguson versus... who's an older... I don't know. Tim Means, Neil Magny, even like Bilal Muhammad, like I know that doesn't make a lot of sense in rankings wise, but Bilal Muhammad's not going to knock Tony Ferguson out, right? Michael Chiesa's got no KO wins on his entire career. Why didn't Tony Ferguson fight one of them? He's fighting Li Jingliang, a guy with like all of his last wins are by KO. He KO'd Elise Zaleski brutally. He KO'd Santiago Ponzinibbio brutally, not really brutally, but in the first round. KO'd Muslim Salikov, potential early stoppage, but he knocked Muslim Salikov down and beat him up silly. Like, it's just, I don't know, I'm getting wound up talking about it, man. Like, I know this is such a terrible breakdown, but you gotta understand, I love Tony Ferguson, I just can't see him, I can't see this happening, man. He's fought at 155 for like the last 10 years, he's moved up a weight class now on short notice against Li Jingliang, who's a power puncher who's got a KO power. I don't know. I just hate it, man. I hate it so much because Tony Ferguson, man, he's probably got he just does. He's got the better technical wrestling out of the two, but Jingliang's so strong, and he does have decent wrestling defense himself that I think he's gonna prevent that from happening. But even then, knowing the way that Tony Ferguson is fighting right now, I don't even know if he does shoot for takedowns. I don't even know if he wants to take the leech down. He probably should do that, but I don't think it's gonna happen, man. I think like. Oh man, I'm picking Jingliang by KO. I'm not parlaying Jingliang. I thought about it though. But just out of respect to Tony Ferguson, I'm not putting any money on the leech. I can't do it, man. I just can't disrespect Tony Ferguson in that way. Because as soon as I put money on Li Jingliang, I know that I've given up hope on Tony Ferguson making a comeback, and I just cannot have that happen. I can't do it. I still believe in you, Tony, man. Please do it, man. Please win. If Tony Ferguson wins this fight, I'll pick him to win no matter who he fights next. He could fight Charles Oliveira in this next fight in a rematch and I'll still pick him to win. He could fight Leon Edwards or Kamaru Usman in his next fight and I'll pick him to win. Just do it for me, Tony. Just do it, man. Come on, bro. I need it, Tony. Please. And if things go the way that I predict them to happen, we're going to be watching Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz on the back of Tony Ferguson getting KO'd. Like, what am I meant to feel? I'm going to be sad. I'm going to be so sad that Tony Ferguson just got finished, and now I'm going to watch Nate Diaz get finished by Khamzat Chimaev. Like, what? This whole card is terrible for me. Like some of my favourite fighters to watch, some of the fighters that I respect, some of the fighters that I want to see win, and they just don't, man. Like, Nate Diaz, like, I will admit, I will be open and honest, Nate Diaz kind of annoys me, like, a lot. He contradicts himself so much in his interviews. He talks to Ariel Helwani, he says this and he says that, and then he's going on and talking bad about the UFC, and then he's like, oh, I wouldn't even mind re-signing for the UFC. This and that. Like, Nate Diaz, I just don't understand him sometimes, but I think that's probably why people like him. He just makes no sense. But, I'm picking Khamzat Chimaev by finish, and I'm not going to go by, like, KO finish. And I'm not really going to go by, like, TKO finish either. I think it's going to be similar to the Masvidal situation in a bad way. I think what's going to happen is Chimaev is going to take Diaz down instantly, because Rory McDonald was able to take him down 7 times. And he's going to land ground and pound. He's going to use his punches. He's going to use his elbows. And Nate Diaz has so much scar tissue on his face. This guy's just going to start bleeding everywhere. He was bleeding everywhere when he fought Leon Edwards. He was bleeding everywhere even when he fought, my brain isn't working, Jorge Masvidal. He was bleeding everywhere when he fought Conor McGregor. Yeah, he was. He was bleeding everywhere when he fought Conor McGregor. This guy's got so much scar tissue on his face. It doesn't take too much for him to open up. And you can even see the moment when Leon Edwards opens up Nate Diaz with a cut. And it's just an old cut. It's a previous cut. I think Khamzat Chimaev takes him down, lands some elbows, cuts Nate Diaz open, and Diaz just starts bleeding everywhere, like he does in all of his fights. And I think that he's going to win by TKO. In that regard, maybe like the doctor stops it between the second and third round even. Like that soon, honestly. Khamzat Chimaev, he can win in so many ways. He really can. He could potentially knock out Nate Diaz on the feet. He could take down Nate Diaz, ground and pound him out, maybe get a submission, which would be impressive, but it could happen. How can Nate Diaz win? He has to survive the first 2 rounds. He just has to. Maybe even the first 3 rounds, because Khamzat Chimaev was gassed out in the second round against Burns. He was, and then he was able to come back, and he did show a bit of heart. He did show not the greatest cardio, but he showed the ability to keep going through adversity, and that's what we like to see. But I just don't think that Nate Diaz is going to give him a lot of adversity. He took 4 rounds to give Leon Edwards any kind of adversity. You know what I mean? Like, and the thing is, here's the thing. Nate Diaz, the difference between Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz is if like Nate Diaz like turns his back to Khamzat Chimaev, Khamzat Chimaev's not going to be like Leon Edwards and just kind of stand there and laugh at him and point at him and just kind of let it happen, be like, oh, this is what Nate Diaz does. If you turn your back to Khamzat Chimaev, the first thing this guy's going to do is he's just going to run. He's going to look for a takedown straight away, and he's going to get it, because Nate Diaz is not defending himself, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's just not a fight that makes the most sense. I mean, the UFC doesn't want Nate Diaz around. It's a win-win for the UFC. If Khamzat Chimaev beats Nate Diaz, he becomes an even bigger name. If Nate Diaz beats Khamzat Chimaev, the UFC can just offer Nate Diaz a lot of money, because he has said that he wouldn't even mind re-signing him, and give Nate Diaz a rematch against Leon Edwards for the belt, or even just get Nate Diaz to wait out for Edwards versus Usman 2 and 3, and then fight the winner of that. Like, it's just such a win-win for the UFC, and it's just like Nate Diaz, man. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like Nate Diaz might even be the underdog against Michelle Pereira, who's like ranked number 12 right now in the UFC. It's like, well, what, like how does Nate Diaz get these fights? Oh, it's such a weird one. It's such a weird one. And what's so annoying about this, man, is like, I'm gonna be out of town. I'm gonna be like at a festival somewhere on Saturday night, and then on Sunday I'm gonna be like in that town, like at my friend's house, and I'm gonna have to watch this fight surrounded by people that genuinely believe Nate Diaz is gonna win, and it's gonna be a tough one, man. The whole card's gonna be tough for me, because I hate watching UFC with people. I have to watch it by myself. I do, and I've got to watch it with a bunch of people that aren't like as invested in the sport as I'm so invested in the sport, guy. I love MMA. I love UFC. I just can't really watch it by myself because I take it so seriously. Like, I'm sitting there at my laptop, glued to the screen when the fights are on. Like, yeah, man, I don't know. I think I've just rambled for a bit. I always do in my outros. But thank you guys so much. If you made it this far, leave me know in the comments. If you made it this far in the video, let me know, because it's kind of funny. Like, I don't really think that people make it this far in my videos, because my outros are terrible. I'm really bad at doing outros. I always ramble for too long. I'm doing it right now. So let's just end the video. Tomorrow, though, we've got Dana White's Contender Series Week 7. I'm so excited for that card. If you haven't seen my videos on that, I've already done a bunch. I did a collaboration with Burt MMA on the channel for Dana White's Contender Series Week 7. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. But, yeah, this is my card. Let me know what you think of my picks. Are they great? Are they terrible? I mean, I don't think there's anyone else on YouTube with the same picks as me that I've seen anyway. And I do watch a lot of YouTube videos on predictions. I think I've got different picks to everyone. Not in every fight, obviously, but I don't think anyone else has the same card of picks than me. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, let's just move on. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you guys so much. I do appreciate it if you made this far in the video.